Now for this picture, the pen I'm using is the Pilot Kakuno pen. It's an extra fine nib, very fine. It's quite nice, and it gives a nice sketchy sort of appearance. And the paper is just some cheaper watercolor paper. It's Fabriano 1264. It's not too bad, but it's not the best by any amount, and it's very good for just practicing on, messing around on, as I'm doing now. Now this sketch, this picture is just going to be like I guess a watercolor retype sketch. It's not going to be anything intricate. It's not being measured. The angles maybe and probably will be a little bit off. This is really just something I like to do to keep my hand in at freehand drawing. A little bit of practice. For example, what I've just said, if you look at the width of the building I'm actually drawing now and the width of the building in the photograph, my building looks a tad too thin. But does it really matter? Not really, because as I said, it's just an exercise. It's a bit of practice, that's all, to keep my hand in freehand sketching. And doing it in pen and not pencil is that you basically it forces you to be a bit bold, because if you make a mistake, then it's pen. You've made that mistake, you cannot rub it out. Now also on this picture, I'm not going to be doing any cross hatching or putting any extra details in with the pen at any time, because this is just going to be, as I've said, it is just basically a sketch. It's a bit of practice. All the tones will be put in with the watercolor paint. But this is, as you can see, it's speeded up a little bit, this sketching part, but it really didn't take long at all for me to draw this out. It's not a particularly complicated scene. It looks complicated, but again, as I've said in other videos, if you look at it and just break it down, it's just a rectangle with a triangle on the top, then it's got some squares and a little rectangle in for the windows. As soon as you put those rectangles and squares in, then everything makes sense. So you never look at it as an actual building, just look at it as the shapes, and when you've got the shapes in, then it suddenly becomes the building. Now this part of the building I'm doing, now this has got perspective, so I do have to watch it a little bit, but you'll probably see that this perspective is not correct. But as I've said, it doesn't need to be correct, because it's just me playing around with a picture. And once you put these little details in, this sketch is virtually done. It was that quick. Now if I was sitting in the street doing this is exactly how I would do it. Nice and loose, nice and free. This is the called the Little Shambles. This is the street I'm actually in, looking at this chocolate shop, which is actually in the Shambles, a famous historic medieval street in York. A massive tourist attraction, and really a really nice street. Of course, nowadays it's got things like it's got some traditional shops, It's got 2 Harry Potter shops. Now that is pretty much the drawing done. Now for the watercolor, again we're just going to put some French ultramarine in with for the sky, just a very simple sky because it is a complicated picture as a foreground. There's just some yellow ochre and a little bit of light red, and I just want to put some tone on the buildings for the brickwork. I'm not going to be putting bricks in. I'm not going to be putting details in. These are just going to be more like flat washes for these parts of the picture. I've just put a little bit more light red in just to make it a little bit more brick colour, and I'm just splash it around into this damp wash. I'm just trying to give more texture than actual detail. Texture using the colour. And the brush I'm using, which I'll be using for pretty much at least about 98% of this picture, is just a 1/4 inch Winsor & Newton Kolinsky Sable flat brush. This is the same colour but just on the opposite street for the brickwork. And you can see I'm not being particularly neat and particularly tidy, and sometimes I'm just scrubbing the paint into the paper. Now the paper, the Fabriano, this is 25% cotton, but it's a very hard sized paper, and the watercolor doesn't really soak into it, even though it has got a 25% cotton constitution. So it is a little bit tricky to work on this paper. This is just some raw sienna and a bit of dirt, a bit of dirty colour, just to give some age to these parts of the building. These buildings are hundreds and hundreds of years old, and they do acquire a bit of grime. Now this is the woodwork, old ancient faded brushwork. This is just a bit of brown, burnt umber in this case, and some French ultramarine, and probably a little bit of dirty colour what I've already had in the palette, just to give that sort of dark, dirty colour. I'm just darkening the original colour we did for these bits of woodwork. I'm just putting some bit more dark and a bit more blue to make it a dirtier mix. And it's now just painting in the wood slats that have in all these sort of medieval type of buildings. Still using the flat brush, so you can always use the edge of it, and if it's a good quality brush it'll go to a razor sharp edge, so you can do pretty thin lines. Now this part of the building, the opposite building, is just Viridian, French ultramarine and a bit of black. It's not a natural colour, but it is from a tin of paint, so you don't get natural coloured in paints. You can get all sorts of weird, strange colours. Now this pink is a strange pink. I've just put some permanent alizarin crimson and some white. It does give pretty much the exact colour of what this window frame actually was. It's a weird bubblegum pink. Not a nice colour in my opinion, but that's what the colour was in the real world, so we've got to put it in. This is a drain pipe on the background building, which was just black and blue. Now this, I've just dirtied this colour up because these are, as I've said, are very, very old buildings, and they do have grime on them. The washes I've put on are too pristine, so we just put some of this dirty colour on, and then we'll just dab it out a little bit here and there with a kitchen rag, just to make more of a stain, and then we can put a little bit more on and just build it up. We don't want these buildings to look like they're brand new. This is just a brick colour, but I'm just applying it now to make it appear like it could be some sort of bricks there. And again, I'm not painting bricks, I'm just darkening it up to make it look like it's more of a stronger colour. This building on the left hand side will probably have a shadow on it at the end of the day. There's no shadows on the photograph, but we have to have some sort of shadow to give it the picture light. Now you'll notice that I've changed the brush to a rigger. I think this was a number 2 or a number 3 rigger. A nice dark dirty brown paint. We can just go over some of these old slats of wood, and also go over where some of this dark is going to be, the shading, the shadow. Just slowly increasing the tones. But I'm still just slapping the paint on because I do not want this to be neat and tidy like you would have in a finished picture. It is, after all, just a sketch. Now the windows, or the window panes, I'm just going to keep it very simple, and I've mixed up some carbon black and some French ultramarine blue, and I shall just paint them in with this little rigger as basically the dark panes of glass as you're looking into a dark room. We don't want to put too much detail in this, and as you can see, I'm being very, very lax with the detail and the accuracy of these window panes. Got to make it look like the sketch it actually is. And it's just a few little details now. And that's pretty much it. We just need to put some shading in. And that's it. There's the picture completed. We've put the shadows in. Very, very dark. And you can see how it instantly lightens the picture up immensely to make it look like it's sunshine. And we've also just put with a white gel pen the sign on the shop in front of us. But no other details were put in. No details with the pen. It was just the tones of the colour from the watercolour. But as the picture stands, I like it, and I think it's just a very nice little watercolor pen and wash type of sketch. Freehand, no detailing. It's not exactly accurate, but as just a little project, a little bit of fun, it works. So I'm happy with that.